For nearly 2 decades, the most prestigious title in Japan's national sport was held by men from a landlocked country, over 3,000 kilometers away. Between 2003 and 2021, not a single Japanese wrestler reached the rank of yokozuna. Instead, the clay ring was dominated by the sons of Mongolian herders, who brought a ferocity the sport had never seen. They rewrote the physics of sumo, rather than simply winning. Even today, in January 2026, with the retirement of the legendary Teruno Fuji just a year behind us, the legacy stands tall in the form of Yokozuna Hoshoryu. A handful of outsiders hijacked a 1,000-year-old tradition. The invasion began with a single flight in 1992. 6 teenagers from Ulaanbaatar landed in Tokyo after being recruited by the Oshima stable master in a desperate bid to find talent. They knew nothing of the language, the strict hierarchy, or the brutal training regimen. 5 of them fled the stable, overwhelmed by the harsh discipline that defined sumo culture, and sought refuge in the Mongolian embassy. One named Kyokushuzan returned, to become the battering ram that broke down the door. By reaching the top division in 1996, he proved that the transition was possible. His success went beyond athletics to become a signal fire. Back in Mongolia, thousands of young boys saw him on television and realized that sumo offered a path to fortune that their dissolving post-Soviet economy could not. Japanese wrestlers train in dojos, but Mongolians train on the steppe. Their national wrestling style, Bokh, has no weight classes and no time limits. A match ends only when a body hits the ground, creating a fundamentally different type of fighter. Japanese sumo emphasizes pushing and thrusting by using mass to displace mass, but Bokh relies on balance, leverage, and leg trips. A Mongolian wrestler learns to use his opponent's weight against him. When they stepped into the sumo ring, they brought this beltless grappling sensibility with them. They threw and spun instead of merely pushing. They utilized techniques that left heavier, slower opponents grasping at air. This background turned the sumo ring into a trap for traditionalists who could not handle the lateral movement. Talent means nothing without hunger. In the early 2000s, Japan was wealthy and comfortable. Young Japanese recruits had grown up with video games and convenience stores, often joining sumo merely as a job. The Mongolians were different. They came from a country transitioning out of communism, where rural life meant hauling water, chopping wood, and herding livestock on horseback. Physical hardship was their baseline. Success in Japan meant feeding an entire extended family back home. This created the hungry wolf mentality. A Japanese wrestler rested when he was tired, but a Mongolian wrestler remembered the poverty he left behind. That psychological edge often decided the match before the initial charge even happened. If Kyokushizan opened the door, Asashoryu tore it off the hinges. Promoting to Yokozuna in 2003, he was the first Mongolian to reach the summit, and he did it with a snarl. Asashoryu did not act like a dignified grand champion. He gave opponents extra shoves after the whistle, glared, and celebrated. Traditionalists hated it, but they could not stop him. He won 25 championships with a style that was pure velocity and violence. His speed was terrifying, and he would often sidestep a 180-kilogram charge to send his opponent flying into the front row. He established the template for Mongolian dominance through superior athleticism combined with an unshakable confidence that rattled the conservative Sumo Association to its core. Then came the White Phoenix. Hakuho Sho was statistically the greatest sumo wrestler who ever lived, rather than just the best Mongolian wrestler. 45 championships and 1,187 wins meant the Emperor's Cup was essentially his personal property for over a decade. Unlike Asashoryu, Hakuho mastered the Japanese style of Yotsu Sumo, grappling on the belt, and perfected it. He was a fortress. His final years brought turbulence, and his retirement in 2021 marked the end of an era. His recent departure from the Sumo Association, following the disbanding of his stable, shocked the world. It was a stark reminder that even gods of the sport are subject to its rigid politics. His numbers remain untouchable, as a monument to a dominance that may never be repeated. The history of sumo is being written every single tournament, and the field changes faster than you think. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, with detailed reports on the sport stories that matter, make sure you are subscribed. We break down the legends and the rising stars every week. Just when Japan thought the Mongolian grip might loosen after Hakuho, a broken man returned from the abyss. Teru no Fuji possesses arguably the most inspiring story in sports history. He was an odzeki who lost everything to diabetes and shattered knees, falling all the way to the 5th division in a humiliation that forces most to quit. Instead, he climbed back, division by division, and win by win. He reclaimed the odzeki rank, and then, miraculously, became the 73rd Yokozuna. He held the fort alone as the singular grand champion until his emotional retirement in January 2025. His career defined itself by a pure and agonizing refusal to die, rather than the dominance of Hakuho. He proved that the Mongolian spirit required an impossible threshold for pain, in addition to strength. The dominance is even more shocking, given that the system is rigged against them. Since 2002, sumo rules have restricted each stable to only one foreign wrestler, creating a ruthless filter. A Japanese recruit can walk into a stable just by meeting the height requirement, but a Mongolian recruit has to be the single best prospect available. He has to beat out every other foreigner for that one spot. This artificial bottleneck ensured that only the absolute elite made it through. We do not see average Mongolian wrestlers because the system does not allow them to exist. The result is a concentrated distillation of talent, where every Mongolian you see on TV is a survivor of a brutal selection process that eliminates 99% of hopefuls before they even arrive. Today, in 2026, the lineage remains unbroken. Standing at the top of the Banzuke is Yokozuna Hoshoryu. The name carries weight because he is the nephew of Asashoryu, the man who started the Golden Age. Hoshoryu relies on technical brilliance and visceral speed, rather than giant size like Hakuho. His promotion to Yokozuna in 2025 signaled that the well of talent has not run dry. Even with the rise of Japan's new hope, Yokozuna Onosato, Hoshoryu represents the permanent integration of Mongolian DNA into the sport. He fights with that familiar step-born intensity and utilizes throws that seem physically impossible to remind everyone that the origin of the sport's most exciting techniques remains the same. The ultimate legacy of this invasion concerns how the sport is played, rather than just the medals. Before the Mongolians, sumo was largely a battle of belly-to-belly inertia. The Mongolians forced the entire sport to evolve. Japanese wrestlers had to get faster and learn defense against leg sweeps and arm throws. You can see the influence in young stars like Kirishima and the newly named Hakuno-Frigi. The ideal sumo body has shifted from pure bulk to functional and explosive muscle. The Mongolians changed sumo instead of simply winning at it. They turned a collision of mass into an active combat sport and forced every stable in Tokyo to update training methods that had been stagnant for centuries. The distinction between Japanese and Mongolian styles is blurring as we move further into 2026. The pipeline is tighter now, with strict regulations, but the bridge is built. Most top Mongolian wrestlers now acquire Japanese citizenship to become stable masters themselves and ensure their philosophy is passed down to the next generation of Japanese youth. The era of total monopoly may be over, replaced by a fierce rivalry between nations, but the history books are closed on one fact. For 20 years, the ancient Japanese art of sumo belonged to the riders of the north. They came as outsiders, and they stayed as kings. The Mongolian takeover was more than a statistical anomaly. It was proof of how desperation and tradition can forge greatness. From the freezing tents of Ulaanbaatar to the heated clay of the Ryogoku Kokugikan, these wrestlers proved that the spirit of the warrior knows no borders. The sport is stronger, faster, and more lively because they arrived. If you enjoyed this detailed look into the clash of cultures, hit that subscribe button to catch our next breakdown of sports history's greatest anomalies. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.